When Michael took the blame for Jermaine's mistake. Full script. Jermaine Jackson hit the wrong note on live television. Millions of people heard it. The producers heard it, but most importantly, Joseph Jackson heard it, and everyone who knew Joseph knew exactly what that mistake would cost. Everyone except Michael. Because before his father could even process what happened, Michael did something that made the entire production crew freeze. He grabbed his microphone, stumbled backward, and pointed at his equipment like something was broken. In less than 5 seconds, Michael Jackson took the blame for a mistake he didn't make, and what happened backstage afterward would haunt him for the rest of his life. It was February 14th, 1971, Valentine's Day. The Jackson 5 was performing on The Ed Sullivan Show, one of the most watched television programs in America. An appearance on Ed Sullivan could make or break an artist's career. The Beatles had performed there, Elvis had performed there, and now the Jackson 5, the hottest group in music, was getting their moment on that legendary stage. The brothers had been preparing for weeks. Every note had been rehearsed hundreds of times. Every dance move had been perfected. Every outfit had been tailored to match. This wasn't just another performance. This was the performance that would cement their place in music history. Joseph Jackson had made that very clear during rehearsals. "You mess this up, and you embarrass this family in front of the whole country," he'd said, his voice cold and controlled. "You know what happens when you embarrass this family." The brothers knew. They all knew. Michael, at 12 years old, had developed a particular sensitivity to his father's moods. He could read the tension in Joseph's shoulders, the set of his jaw, the tone of his voice. And as they prepared to go on stage that Valentine's Day, Michael noticed something that made his stomach knot with anxiety. Joseph was already on edge. Something had happened before the show, some argument with the producers or the network. Michael didn't know the details, but he knew the signs. His father was looking for a reason to explode. The Jackson 5 was performing their hit, "I'll Be There," the same song Michael had nearly destroyed his voice recording months earlier. The arrangement for the live performance was slightly different from the record. There was a key change midway through that required precise timing. Jermaine, who played bass and sang backup vocals, had to hit a specific note to signal the transition. They'd practiced it 1,000 times. In rehearsal, Jermaine had nailed it every single time. But live television is different. The lights are brighter, the pressure is heavier, millions of people are watching. And sometimes, under all that pressure, even the most prepared performers make mistakes. The performance started perfectly. Jackie, Tito, Marlon, and Jermaine lined up behind Michael, who stood at the center microphone. The studio audience was electric. Ed Sullivan himself was watching from the wings, smiling. Everything was going exactly as planned. Michael's voice soared through the opening verses, pure, controlled, emotionally perfect. The audience was captivated. This was why they were stars. This was why Berry Gordy had bet everything on these 5 brothers from Gary, Indiana. Then came the key change. Jermaine was supposed to hit a B-flat to signal the transition. Instead, his fingers found the wrong fret on his bass. The note that came out was a half step off, not a B-flat, an A. It was wrong, obviously painfully wrong. The kind of mistake that makes musicians in the audience wince. The kind of mistake that makes producers in the control room panic. Michael heard it immediately. His musical ear, trained from years of abuse whenever he missed a note, caught the error instantly. He glanced sideways and saw Jermaine's face go white. His brother knew. Everyone on that stage knew. And backstage, watching on a monitor, Joseph Jackson knew. What happened next took less than 5 seconds. But those 5 seconds revealed everything about who Michael Jackson was and who he was learning to become. Michael didn't think. He reacted on pure instinct, driven by the same protective impulse that had made him give away his birthday bicycle, that had made him stay in the studio all night pushing himself to perfection. He saw his brother's terror, and he moved. Michael's hand shot out and grabbed his microphone. He jerked it away from his mouth, creating a feedback squeal that made everyone in the studio flinch. At the same time, he stumbled backward, nearly tripping over the microphone cable, and pointed at his equipment with a confused, frustrated expression. To anyone watching, it looked like technical difficulty, a microphone malfunction, the kind of thing that happened on live television sometimes, unfortunate, but not anyone's fault. Michael recovered quickly, finding his place in the song again, and the performance continued. Jermaine, given a momentary reprieve, found the correct note on his second attempt. The rest of the performance went smoothly. By the end, the studio audience was on their feet, applauding. Ed Sullivan was beaming. From the audience's perspective, it had been a flawless performance with one small technical glitch. Nothing more. But Backstage was a different story. The moment the cameras stopped rolling and the audience's applause faded, Joseph Jackson was moving. He didn't say a word. He didn't need to. His presence was enough to make all 5 brothers freeze where they stood. "Dressing room, now," Joseph said, his voice quiet and controlled, which was somehow more terrifying than if he'd been yelling. The brothers filed off stage, their smiles evaporating the second they were out of public view. Jermaine was shaking. Jackie was trying to look calm, but his jaw was tight. Tito stared at the floor. Marlon stayed close to Michael. And Michael was calculating. He was running through scenarios in his head, trying to figure out how to protect Jermaine from what was coming. They reached the dressing room. Joseph closed the door behind them. The sound of that door clicking shut made Michael's heart race. "That note," Joseph said, turning to face them. "That wrong note. Who was it?" Silence. Nobody wanted to be the one to speak. "I asked a question." Joseph's voice rose slightly. "Who hit the wrong note?" Jermaine opened his mouth. Michael saw it happening, saw his brother about to confess, about to take responsibility like he'd been taught to do, and Michael knew exactly what would happen next. Their father would see it as weakness, as failure, as embarrassment, and Joseph Jackson didn't tolerate embarrassment. "It was my microphone," Michael said quickly before Jermaine could speak. "It cut out right when we hit the transition. I couldn't hear my cue, so I grabbed it, and that's why there was feedback. That's what threw everyone off." Joseph turned his cold gaze on Michael. "Your microphone." "Yes, sir, it was my fault. I should have checked the equipment before we went on." "Michael, no," Jermaine started, but Michael shot him a look that silenced him immediately. Joseph studied Michael for a long moment. The room was so quiet that Michael could hear his own heartbeat pounding in his ears. He knew his father didn't believe him. Joseph Jackson knew his sons too well to be fooled. But Michael was betting on something else. He was betting that his father would accept the lie if it meant maintaining the family's public image. "You're telling me," Joseph said slowly, "that you caused a problem on national television because you didn't check your equipment." "Yes, sir." "Do you understand what could have happened? Ed Sullivan could have cut us off. They could have decided not to air the performance. You could have cost this family everything we've worked for." "Yes, sir. I understand." Joseph moved fast. His hand connected with the side of Michael's head, not a slap, but a solid hit that made Michael's ear ring. "You're supposed to be the professional one," Joseph said. "You're supposed to be the one I never have to worry about. And you pull this?" Michael kept his eyes down, his body tense but not defensive. He'd learned long ago that defending yourself only made it worse. "Look at me," Joseph commanded. Michael looked up. His ear was throbbing, but he kept his expression neutral. "You ever embarrass this family like that again, and we'll have a much longer conversation. You understand me?" "Yes, sir." Joseph turned to the other brothers. "Get changed. We have a meeting with the Sullivan people in 15 minutes, and you better pray they don't cut our performance." Joseph left the dressing room. The door slammed behind him. For a moment, nobody moved. Nobody breathed. Then Jermaine exploded. "Mike, what the hell was that? Why did you lie?" "I didn't lie," Michael said quietly, touching his ear gently. "There was feedback. Everyone heard it. That was after. I hit the wrong note and you know it. You took the blame for my mistake." "It's fine." "It's not fine." Jermaine was getting emotional now, his voice rising. "Dad hit you because of me. He thought you screwed up when you were the only one who didn't screw up." Michael started changing out of his performance outfit, moving carefully. "Jermaine, just let it go." "I can't let it go. I'm going to tell Dad the truth." Michael grabbed Jermaine's arm, his grip surprisingly strong for a 12-year-old. "No, you're not." "Why not?" Michael's eyes were intense, older than they should have been. "Because he'll be more angry that you let me take the blame than he would have been about the mistake. Because it's already done, and telling him now just makes it worse. Because," Michael's voice dropped even lower, "because this way, at least it's over." Jackie, the oldest brother, put a hand on both of their shoulders. Mike's right. What's done is done. We move forward. Jermaine pulled away, frustrated and guilty. I can't believe you did that. I've taken worse, Michael said simply, and something about the casual way he said it made all his brothers go quiet. They got changed. They went to the meeting with the Ed Sullivan producers. The performance aired the following week, and nobody watching at home knew anything had gone wrong. The Jackson Five's reputation remained intact, but something had shifted between the brothers that day. Over the next few weeks, Jermaine tried multiple times to tell their father the truth. Each time, Michael stopped him, sometimes with words, sometimes with just a look, and each time, Jermaine's guilt grew heavier. Finally, one night at their hotel after a concert, Jermaine cornered Michael alone in their shared room. Why did you do it? Jermaine asked. Really, why did you take the blame? Michael was quiet for a long time, staring out the hotel window at the city lights below. When he finally spoke, his voice was soft but certain. Because I knew I could take it, and I wasn't sure you could. That's not fair to you. Maybe not. But that's what brothers do. We protect each other. By getting hurt? Michael turned to look at Jermaine. You've protected me before. Remember when I was 9 and I forgot my lyrics during that talent show? You jumped in and turned it into a duet so I could remember. You saved me. That was different. I didn't get punished for that. So what? You still risked looking stupid to help me. This is the same thing, just more. Jermaine sat down on the edge of the bed, his head in his hands. I hate that this is what we do. I hate that we have to protect each other from our own father. I know, Michael said quietly. I hate it too. Years later, long after they'd both left their father's house, long after the Jackson Five had become history, Jermaine would tell this story in interviews, not the sanitized version, but the real one. Michael had this thing, Jermaine explained to a journalist in 1995, this compulsion to protect people at his own expense, and I think it started with us, his brothers. He learned that if he took the hit, literally and figuratively, he could spare someone else, and once he learned that lesson, he never stopped applying it. The interviewer asked if Jermaine ever told their father the truth about that Ed Sullivan performance. I tried to years later, Jermaine admitted. I thought maybe Dad would understand, would apologize to Michael. But you know what? Dad just shrugged. He said, if Michael was willing to take the blame, then he earned the punishment. That's when I realized that Michael had understood something about our father that I hadn't. Joseph didn't care about the truth. He cared about control. And by taking the blame, Michael had actually taken control of the situation in the only way available to him. That Valentine's Day performance in 1971 was never about the music. It was about a 12-year-old boy learning that love means sacrifice, and sacrifice means suffering for people who might not even appreciate it. Michael Jackson would repeat this pattern for the rest of his life. Taking blame he didn't deserve. Protecting people who sometimes didn't deserve protection, suffering in silence so others could walk away unscathed. When people praised his generosity, his kindness. The interviewer asked if Jermaine thought that belief contributed to Michael's struggles later in life. Jermaine was quiet for a long moment before answering. Michael spent his whole life being the one who fixed things, who saved people, who took the hit. And nobody ever taught him that he was allowed to stop, that it was okay to let someone else take care of him for once, that his value wasn't measured by how much he could suffer for other people. The wrong note that Jermaine hit on that Valentine's Day in 1971 lasted less than a second, but Michael's sacrifice to cover for that mistake echoed through the rest of his life. It taught him that love means pain, that protection means self-destruction, that being valuable means being willing to bleed for people who might never acknowledge what you've done. And in a career full of extraordinary performances, that might have been the most tragic role Michael Jackson ever played, the hero who saves everyone but himself.